Tariffs will go into effect tomorrow.
Yep.
25% on Canada and Mexico, 10% on China. Are you expecting retaliation?
We'll see what happens, but I think, unfortunately, the retaliation has already happened. The problem with this whole idea that they're going to retaliate is they have already been taking advantage of America for decades. The retaliation is Donald Trump saying no more. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore, and I think it's important the president is doing what he's doing. Now, look, it looks different ways and comes in different forms, whether you're talking about Canada or China or Mexico. We know that Mexico has allowed the facilitation of the illegal drug trade and illegal sex trafficking for years and has done nothing about it. If they want to be a better partner to us, the time starts now. We know the Chinese, of course, have stolen American manufacturing jobs for 30, 40 years, and also that they facilitated the trafficking of illegal fentanyl into Mexico, where the drug cartels then bring it into our country. We are sick of being taken advantage of. We still have, thank God, the biggest economy in the entire world, the best people and the best workers. But the message from President Trump to the entire world is very clear. We are done being taken advantage of, and we have a president who looks out for the interests of American citizens. Thank God we do, and we're going to try to do it the best we can.
And the trade war begins, allegedly, anyway. As you guys saw from the intro, Donald Trump has slapped tariffs on Mexico and China, and then Mexico, China, and Canada. And Canada and Mexico slaps tariffs on the U.S. after Trump used trade to force border security. Now, I think this is a good way for Trump to use his political capital, and we'll see where it goes, because end of the day, if we looking at our manufacturing, our products, a lot of the stuff that Mexico and Canada kind of provides that we can kind of start offloading to manufacturers that's on our borders. This is America first. And at the end of the day, any change you're making, any reform you're making, it's never going to be, how you say, a seamless process. That's how it seems like to me. Donald Trump already warned that this could raise prices on Americans. Some Americans are trying to like coordinate and say, hey, let's not buy products from Canada anymore or Mexico and all this stuff. And you saw how Trump cites a lot. You saw J.D. Vance cited a lot about the border issue that's going on with China. They're funneling fentanyl through the drug cartels, how Mexico don't want to do anything about the drug cartels. And I want to show this video before I go into my next segment. Here's JV. I don't get it. You're burning the flag of a country that you illegally entered and want to stay in, but you're waving the flag of a country that you fled from but don't want to be deported back to. Right? They're now burning American flags to protest mass deportation in California, all while waving Mexican flags. This boils my blood so much. Deport these devils, right? So as you can see, I don't know their immigration status, but there's a bunch of people burning American flags to protest mass deportation in California, all while waving Mexican flags, right? But then, oh, Americans, you're so heartless. And this is what I've been talking about for a long time on my channel. If you're new here, I talk about how many Americans feel like we are being taken advantage by everyone and their mom, and no one's standing up for us. And Trump represents the guy that stands up for us. This is my political calculus. I voted for Trump because I need him to be our hero and the world's villain. And so far, Trump has followed through with my expectations of him. The tariffs is one of those things. Okay, these people don't want to comply. These people don't want to be good partners to us. Like you saying we're allies, right? Why are you allowing something that's hurting your allies' people? That don't make any sense. You are ally, but you want us to damn near subsidize your entire foreign policy. Subsidize your entire system using our tax people's dollars like they're slaves. This has been the policies for 30 plus years in America. Get taken advantage of. Politicians get money in the back end somehow at the expense of the American people. This has been the system for over 30, 40, 50 years in the United States of America. And you got a guy who now comes in and he says, hey, look, I want to put the people first. National security matters more than inflation. If we look at the priorities here for the president, that's what it seems like he's telling with tariffs. And end of the day, America's the biggest economy in the world. You're going to tariff us? Okay. We'll see how long you last. Just end of the day, Justin Trudeau in Canada, Mexico, they want to act tough now. But Justin Trudeau, they know, hell, we can't maintain our budget if we're not getting money from the U.S. But before I continue, I need to show you this clip of this TikToker. I think he explains the whole circumstances around tariffs pretty well.
Hey, you liberal fruitcakes. See a lot of you crying over tariffs, saying it's going to destroy the economy. Want to look at trade economics? First, a tariff is a tax imposed on a country's imported goods and services. The United States only imports 15% of goods and services internationally. The rest is domestic. Now, a lot of you are concerned about what's happening with Canada and Mexico. Well, you remember that 15% I talked about? Canada and Mexico only produce 5% of that. That means between both of them, they only produce 5% of the United States GDP. So guess what? This trade war is going to turn both of those places into a third world country, although Mexico already is one. Now the reality is we don't want that, but the United States is tired of being taken advantage of by the countries who are refusing to pay their fair share. And we all know you guys want fair share. And tariffs are a way of achieving that. Now let's look at Canada. 20% of the GDP of Canada comes from the United States trade agreements. And 75% of their trade happens with the United States. Now that means if prices go up because of imported goods from Canada, Americans are going to refuse to buy them. Meaning, Canada's not going to make any money. And as we're 75% of their trade, that's going to be detrimental to their economy. And Mexico doesn't even remotely have a leg to stand on, with 40% of their GDP tied into American export. Now I know you're going to say that Canada's threatened to turn off power to Americans. Well, we'll just raise the tariff. They're not going to turn it off. Do you know why? Because Canada's utilities is $55 billion in debt, which means they can't afford to turn off the United States' power. Now you're going to say that other countries are going to stop trading with America. Well, they only make up 10% of the GDP of the United States. And we'll just pull funding from NATO, because we fund 75% of that, which means all of them would have to cut their social services, like Canada paying reparations rather than investing in their own military, which they didn't. They spend more money on social services than investing in their own military. The reality is tariffs are good when coupled with tax cuts for the United States. Yes, it will be inflationary. The numbers that we're seeing are about 0.5%. But coupled with the elimination of income tax, it would be negligible to the United States. So stop crying. Tariffs provide leverage, and America is going to put America first. We're gonna be fine. Stop your fear-mongering.
So I hope you guys got a good, general perspective of why, I'm not really concerned too much about the tariffs. Why I know these tariffs hurt Canada and Mexico more than it hurts us. Let's review. 85% of the products we purchase and buy here in the United States are made by American companies, right? 15% of imported goods, come from somewhere else. And Canada and Mexico combined only accounts for 5% out of the 15% that we import into our country. Yeah, you heard that right. For Canada, we are responsible for 20% of products imported into their country. And, they're $55 billion in debt? $75 billion in debt? I forget the number already. But you can review the clip. You can go back and review the clip if you want a refresher, right? 40% of Mexico's GDP is tied into the U.S. Canada and Mexico need us more than we need them. And if they coordinate with countries around the world, right, like the EU, right, the EU here, Trump is planning to impose tariffs on them too. He's absolutely open to impose tariffs on the EU. He won't fund NATO. Simple. The American people have too much leverage. All these countries, this is why I said, these foreign countries, this is why they feel so entitled to our money. I did a live stream where I reacted to an African leader saying, why are you getting mad that Donald Trump and the Americans don't want to give us money anymore? You got to start figuring out what you're going to do for yourself. And this is the problem with globalism. Few countries have power and influence over all the other countries. Imagine, United States said we're not going to give money to people. We're going to enact tariffs on people. All of a sudden, there's supposed to be outrage. Oh, we're supposed to be mad. Oh. And this is the calculation that I think Donald Trump is making is that, we got to apply some pressure. They try to call our bluffs. I want to get into the article a little bit. I think Canadians understand that we need to respond to this, said Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Mexico and Canada announced tariffs against the U.S. on Saturday in retaliation for a slate of new import duties President Donald Trump ordered against the U.S. neighbors in China. As Trudeau said on Saturday that Canada is working with Mexico to push back against Trump's trade, which is only going to equate to 5% of products affected by their tariffs. Trump ordered increased tariffs on goods from Canada, China, and Mexico over the lack of sufficient action against humans and drug trafficking that has poured into the U.S. I think Canadians understand that we need to respond to this, said Trudeau, who is expected to leave office in a matter of weeks after stepping down on his party as his party leader. We're certainly not looking to escalate, but we'll stand up for Canada. You do it, we'll see what happens. Trump issued his own statement on social media on Sunday, condemning his critics and supporters of the decade-long ripoff of Americans. This is how we see it. This is how many Americans see it. A lot of Americans, when people brag about other countries' healthcare system, I go, a lot of these people, all these countries, especially in the EU, that they have a better healthcare system, their healthcare system is relying on our healthcare system. We pay all the expensive stuff in creating the vaccines, doing all this stuff, and then they get it in the back end at a cheaper rate and they sell it to their people. A lot of these countries get foreign, they rely on our foreign aid to kind of subsidize their system. So that means U.S. tax dollars is being funneled to pay for a lot of these countries' social programs. And then Americans in the back end will lambast. Oh, look, how come these people's places are so much better? Because everyone's like a tick on the United States of America. If it's a partnership, you should get some mutual benefit from the exchange. But if Americans feel if the America is being ripped off by the trade agreements and by all this stuff that our politicians are doing, because a lot of these politicians don't work in our best interest, what do you expect Donald Trump to do? He has to cause some suffering. Before I continue, here's the CEO of J.P. Morgan highlighting his thoughts on the state of the U.S. economy and Trump's tariffs.
Trump talked about tariffs just yesterday. Mary Erdos, your colleague, was on stage talking about how your firm has created a quote-unquote war room that's looking at each of these executive orders as they come in, trying to assess what they mean for the bank and I imagine for your clients.
Yeah. So we always, war room may be a bad word, but this is a real-time, full thing, analyzing for clients, for communities, for a bank. And we get a million questions, stuff like that. Look, I look at tariffs, they are an economic tool. That's it. They're an economic weapon, depending how you use it and why you use it and stuff like that. And, people argue, is it inflationary and non-inflationary? I would put in perspective, if it's a little inflationary, but it's good for national security, so be it. Get over it. National security trumps a little bit more inflation. But I think the question is how they get used. Can they be used to bring people to the table? Yes. Is there some unfair trade? Yes. Is there some state-owned subsidies? Yes. Is the president going to use that way in his team? Yeah, and we'll see.
Trump talked about tariffs just yesterday.
Yeah, I think everyone's in a wait-or-see moment. Obviously, people are going to play politics with this issue, especially the Democrats. They're trying to make themselves relevant again. I got more videos about the Democrats. But they're going to jump on this and try to, fearmonger about how much, oh, my God, people's inflation is going to, inflation. But it's going to be marginal, right? Like I said, 50% of America's products are made out of the country. Out of that 15%, Canada and Mexico combined only contributes for 5% of the imported goods into our country. So, you're not going to get much inflation. But we apply pressure on Canada and Mexico for ripping off Americans, both with regards to trade, crime, and poisonous drugs that are allowed so freely flowing into America. Those days are over, in all caps. Trump ordered 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, with a lesser 10% tariff hike on Canadians' energy imports. So it's very specific. And if Canada does turn off their power, you see let's take morality out of it. Let's remove the fact that Canada is an ally. If they do that, they don't got no military to stop us. We're their military. This is what I'm talking about. A lot of countries are not very self-sufficient. Like, imagine you're a grown person, right? And you're still relying on mommy and daddy's money to live your life, right? And one day you challenge mommy and daddy on something, and mommy and daddy say, yo, stop it, or we're going to cut off your funds. Do it, because you call their bluff, because you've been spoiled all your life. You knew mommy and daddy will always get you. Mommy and daddy finally said, nah, you're a grown man, you're a grown woman now. We're cutting off your funds. And you don't get no more money. What happens? Usually they crumble. You got two things to figure out. Either you go back and you grovel to mommy and daddy and say, mommy and daddy, I'm sorry, I should have done that. And they reinstate your funds, or you go stand on your own. And a lot of these countries, and this is how Americans feel. Y'all can't stand on your own. This is why the Americans have to play as the world police. Now, there's trade-offs with that. Yeah, we have a lot of power. We have a lot of economic authority. But to give it all, like the way we've been managing the world, the way we've been acting like the world police, to me it makes no damn sense. To me, if our military is protecting your borders, you should be paying us like a percent. You should be paying us. If we're gonna be mercenaries for the world, we might as well get paid like mercenaries of the world. And this is the problem I have. We're putting American lives, American soldiers at risk, protecting these countries, and these countries don't pay anything. We give money. Like, imagine that. United States of America is a security company that gives you money to protect you. Make that make sense. And you don't think Americans, as an American taxpayer, you don't think I'm being ripped off? When I see more foreign aid being spent on foreign countries than on stuff that's going on in our own internal country, I think Trump's going to have massive support behind this. We'll see how it plays out.
In the order, are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada?
Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there.
And this is why Trudeau said that, hey, if you do these tariffs, you're going to bankrupt Canada's economy. And Trudeau don't have anything to lose now, so Trudeau can do this stuff. He could play tough now. He can play like, because he don't care. Like, he lost. He resigned already. So it's not going to be on him if the future consequences of these actions hit the Canadian people and the Canada government. It doesn't affect him. In my view, this is my estimation as someone from America looking on the outside on Canada. To me, this looks like Justin Trudeau trying to set up the next person or sabotage the next administration who's about to come into Canada, aka Pierre Poilievre. I forgot his name. Sorry, Pierre Poilievre. Trying to set him up for failure. Trying to leave him with this mess. Hey, here you go. I gave some retaliation tariffs, and if you back down, you're gonna look weak, Pierre. I think this is a setup from Justin Trudeau's point. This is why he was so gung ho and retaliating, because he already resigned. He's already on his way out. So,
but if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them, and this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory to a certain extent. Millions of people flowed into our country through Mexico and Canada, and we're not going to allow that. And by the way, we have among the lowest numbers we've ever had of people crossing our border, the lowest numbers since my administration.
Mr. President, you said, so on Truth Social, you said that you were going to cut aid from South Africa. Will you plan to cut aid across other African nations?
Yeah, that part I don't really care about. So you guys get the gist of it. I think this is I think I explained my rationale. I think I explained kind of where I believe Trump is actually looking at. I show you reactions from these from Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, what he's thinking about it, how he's seeing it. Hey, a little inflation and we resolve national security. I think that's a trade-off I think many Americans will be happy with. And especially, if you shift your spending away from imported products and more stuff made in the USA, which is kind of what American First is all about, then you create a further incentive being like, damn, you know how, okay, this is, and I'll end it off, I promise. In China, a lot of the people buy stuff made in China, right? If you wanted to compete in the Chinese market, you got to be in China. You have to be doing something in China to get access to their market. And I think Trump is playing the same kind of game with the American, except it's a little bit more open, but he's just saying like, yo, like, we got to be more reliant on our products, on our manufacturing. So yeah, we still allow competition, but the slant is we rather you compete in our country than your global organization competing outside and you coming in. And I just think Trump is trying to take more of what China's approach was towards trade, right? And Trump is seeing that, China, you're not playing the same game. Like You want all our benefits, but you don't want to you don't want to hold your side of the bargain, and that's always been Trump's ethos. So he feels like these other countries are not paying their share of the bargain, their half of the bargain, and all of them are going to try to play tough ball. But in reality, we know who's holding all these global organizations up. That's why everyone was making an up hoopla over Trump taking us out of the World Health Organization, because we paid them $50 million. I don't know how much we paid just to be a member of this organization, and at what cost. But I digress. I'm done. I'm done talking, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear your reactions to the tariffs. What do you think the tariffs are? Do you feel like the Democrats are just being political and overreacting and try to create some type of doubt in the American people? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share if you do feel so inclined, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.